All right, good morning, everyone. Before I get started, here's what I'm going to do. Could I invite everybody who's in the back, please move up. We don't want the president to be talking or congressman to be talking to empty chairs, so please move up. This is going to be a lively, engaging discussion, and if we can get you all to move up, that will be very, very good. Plus, if you're right here, I can see you if you want to ask a question. I can't see you if you're back there. So if that's not encouragement enough, so good morning again, everyone. My name is Monday Muyangwa, and I am the director of the Wilson Center's Africa program. And it is my great pleasure today to welcome His Excellency Olusegun Obasanjo, the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to the Wilson Center. I'd also like to extend a warm welcome back to the Wilson Center for Congressman Frank Wolf, who's a good friend of the center and who has worked to support our institution. I would especially like to thank him for his leadership and efforts to elevate human rights issues to the top of the policy agenda here in the US, as well as in the global policymaking agenda. And I thank you for agreeing to participate in this discussion today. I would also like to take a moment to thank the International Committee on Nigeria, ICON, who have been central to making President Obasanjo's visit to the Wilson Center possible. Quite frankly, this visit would not have happened without their support and their outreach to both Congressman Wolf and the Wilson Center. And I want to acknowledge Mr. Stephen Enada and Dr. Richard Ikebe, members of ICON's leadership, who are present here with us today, as well as other members of their organization. Again, thank you so much for making this visit possible. I want to welcome everybody else in the audience, as well as those joining us via webcast and on Twitter. With us here today is a wide cross-section of the US government, members of the African and International Diplomatic Corps, a few Wilson Center board members, various stakeholders, interested citizens, and of course, many members of the Nigerian and African diaspora community. I thank you all for joining us here this morning. For those of you on Twitter, you can follow the live tweets of today's event at the Africa Program's Twitter account at Africa Up Close, and you can contribute to the discussion using the hashtag diversity in Nigeria, all one word. So bringing together scholarship and policy to address real-world issues and challenges is at the heart of the mission of the Wilson Center. And today's discussion on managing Nigeria's diversity amidst rising ethno-religious tensions speaks directly to our mission, and therefore the reason why we are absolutely honored to be able to host both the Congressman and President Obasanjo this morning. Our discussion today is first and foremost critical to Nigeria, as ordinary lives are lost and development and the overall nation-building exercise in that country are negatively impacted. Nigeria has long struggled with the issue of ethno-religious tensions, as have a number of other African countries, I might add. President Obasanjo will speak to us about what he sees to be the causes and the drivers of this ethno-religious tension and offer some suggestions about how Nigeria can better manage the ethnic and religious diversity to achieve a more inclusive society that benefits all. I, for one, have always believed that diversity is a strength. Yet in far too many countries, we use it as a weapon to divide. And I'm really looking forward to hearing President Obasanjo's remarks on this. So I know we have a lot of questions, so I want to jump in right away and introduce Congressman Wolf, who will provide some introductory remarks. And you can find his full bio in the handout. All I want to say for now is that he is the former member of the United States House of Representatives, where he represented Virginia's 10th congressional districts for 17 terms. He's a passionate advocate for human rights and religious freedom. He was appointed as the first ever Wilson Chair in Religious Freedom at Baylor University, and he's a distinguished senior fellow at the 21st Century Wilberforce Initiative. He is the author of the International Religious Freedom Act, and is also the founder of the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission, a bipartisan group of members of Congress who raise awareness about international human rights issues. Congressman Wolf, welcome to the Wilson Center, and the mic is yours, sir.
Thank you. I want to welcome His Excellency President Obasanjo, the first democratically elected president of Nigeria, and I also want to thank Jane Harman, Congresswoman Harman, and the Wilson Center for having this event. I believe that genocide is taking place in Nigeria. Boko Haram has killed over 27,000 civilians, and some say many more than ISIS killed in Iraq and Syria combined. According to the Global Terrorism Index, Nigeria is the third most dangerous country after Afghanistan and Iraq. Greg Stanton of Genocide Watch has said the following, quote, Boko Haram is committing genocide against Christians and crimes against humanity, against children, especially girls it kidnaps to become sex slaves. He said it forces boys to become child soldiers. It massacres police and others associated with the Nigerian government. He said it commits war crimes against ordinary civilians who go to markets and other public places to which Boko Haram sends its suicide bombers, many of whom are children Boko Haram has kidnapped. Boko Haram, he said, claims to be a branch of ISIS. Mr. Stanton went on to say, quote, Fulani militants in central Nigeria are also committing crimes against humanity and genocidal massacres against Christians. He said what is mistakenly portrayed as a conflict between herders and farmers is actually a genocidal war between ethnic groups that previously coexisted, united by Islamic extremists and modern weapons. The Islamic State of West Africa is operating in the Lake Chad region. In a recent report, the highly respected Jamestown Foundation said the following. They said, one thing for sure, the fractional dynamics in jihadism in Nigeria and the Lake Chad region will continue to shift. They went on to say, while the violence expands, deepens, and perhaps becomes more intractable, end of quote. In April of 2014, Boko Haram garnered worldwide attention for kidnapping 276 Christian schoolgirls. The world responded with a hashtag, Bring Back Our Girls Twitter campaign. 5 years later, more than 100 of the girls are still missing and are all forgotten. When I was in Nigeria, I talked to one of the moms, and they say when they heard the hashtag, Bring Back Our Girls, they were so excited that something was going to happen. And I checked this past April, 5 years, no one did hashtag Bring Back Our Girls. In a more recent event, a young girl named Leah Sharibu was among a group of girls kidnapped by Boko Haram 2 years ago. Boko Haram released all the girls who professed to embrace Islam. Leah, at that time, age 14, was the only one to refuse, and as a result, she is being held by Boko Haram as a slave for life. Keep in mind that 4 American soldiers were killed in Niger, and the region could become, according to the experts, a breeding ground and a staging area for attacks against the West for terrorists and a possible resurgence of ISIS into Iraq. America should always speak out and take action against genocide, against crimes against humanity. We must not forget history. When the world and the United States ignored the genocide in Rwanda, hundreds of thousands of people died. I can still remember the cables were coming into the State Department cables were coming into the UN, and the world ignored what was taking place. Many experts believe that Nigeria could implode, which would destabilize the surrounding countries and send millions of refugees into Europe and beyond. Nigeria, with a population of over 195 million, is the largest country in Africa. And there are 350,000 to 400,000 Nigerian Americans who are concerned over the fate of their relatives, and it is said, so goes Nigeria, so goes all of Africa. It is clear that the crisis plaguing Nigeria is multifaceted, but one that must be addressed by the Nigerian government and the U.S. government and the international community. Because this is a problem that affects the countries surrounding Nigeria as well. I believe that we need a special envoy for Nigeria and the Lake Chad region who can coordinate the response to the crisis by various agencies of our government, and who can work with the allies in France and England and other countries on terrorism, hunger, sexual trafficking, corruption, religious freedom, human rights violations, education, all of the different aspects. One of the models would be, if you recall, when President Bush appointed Senator John Danforth as a special envoy for Sudan, it was done in the Rose Garden with President Bush on one side of Senator Danforth and Secretary Colin Powell on the other side. I think we need now, based on what is taking place, to do the same thing with regard to Nigeria and the Lake Chad region. The challenge that face Nigeria and the Lake Chad region are great. However, it is my firm belief that the United States and other Western nations have a vested interest in confronting one of the worst crises of our day. Nigeria has been fractured and forgotten. Let us not forget it anymore. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman Wolf, for that impassioned analysis of what's going on in Nigeria and why it matters to the United States. We appreciate the recommendation that you have made, and hopefully between your recommendations and President Obasanjo's recommendations, we will be able to offer some practical way forwards for addressing this very, very challenging problem. So thank you once again. It is now my hard job to introduce a man who needs no introduction. But what I want to do is just pinpoint a few key things about his life's journey, which will give us a backdrop to his accomplishments, but also a sense of why he thinks the way he thinks on some of these issues that we're going to hear about today. So as many of you know, President Obasanjo started his career in Nigeria's military and rose through the ranks, attaining the rank of Lieutenant General in 1976. He took over as Nigeria's military leader following the assassination of General Murtala Muhammad in 1976. President Obasanjo is widely credited for returning democracy to Nigeria. Instead of continuing with the military rule that had characterized the country to that point, he instead presided over elections which were won by Shehu Shagari, Nigeria's first democratically elected civilian president after more than 13 years of military rule. He was a staunch critic of the military when it resorted to yet more coups to remove civilian presidents. He later served as Nigeria's president from 1999 to 2007 under Nigeria's Fourth Republic, thus again marking Nigeria's return to democratic civilian rule. Since leaving office, he has been an active elder statesman, representing Nigeria and the continent in various capacities. He has played an important role in strengthening the African Union. He helped to establish the new Partnership for Africa's Development and the African Peer Review process. He also served on the leadership of the TANA Forum, a Pan-African forum established to really push the dialogue and the solutions to some of Africa's pressing security challenges. And it was my honor to work with him and to get to know him a little bit better while he was at the Tana Forum. He has also advocated for a strengthened West African regional cooperation through ECOWAS and the Co-Prosperity Alliance Zone. He has served as chairman of the Group of 77, the Commonwealth Heads of Government Meeting, and the NEPAD Heads of State and Government Implementation Committee. He has also served as an international mediator for several conflicts in Africa, including serving as the UN Special Envoy to the Great Lakes region. Please join me in welcoming President Obasanjo to the Wilson Center. So, Baba, the mic is yours. Do your thing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, let me start by saying good morning to you, brothers and sisters and friends. And let me also give my appreciation and thanks to Jane Hannah, who is, of course, unavoidably not here, but made all the preparation to make this meeting possible. And Monday, thank you very much for your introductory remark. Congressman Wolf, thank you very much for what you are doing and for our part of the world generally, but for Nigeria in particular. And I cannot agree with you more on the point you have made that this country needs to have a special envoy to look at things and hold things together. And you mentioned a number of them: security, population, education, development, particularly in the northeast zone of Nigeria and in the Lake Chad region. Maybe later on as we go along, we will talk more about that. I want to thank the International Committee on Nigeria with Stephen and Richard for making it possible for me to be here, because as Mandy said, if not for the pressure put on me by Richard, he knows that I would not have been here. And but I like the pressure. I have chosen to talk about diversity, management of diversity, in Africa generally, but in Nigeria in particular, because it is very relevant, especially when we talk about all the things happening in Nigeria, the Nigerian situation. What could be the core or the center piece, if you like, of the problems that we have? And when people ask me, what are your worst fears about Africa? I never hesitate to mention two issues: management or mismanagement of diversity, and management or mismanagement of population, particularly the youth bulge. The third one that is rearing its ugly head is credibility of elections and the effect of that on democracy and governance. Our emphasis today at this meeting is management of diversity, which has implications for the other two issues I've mentioned. I mean, if we are able to manage diversity successfully through good governance and good leadership, we will by extension manage population well, and electoral process is also likely to be well managed to give free, fair, credible, and generally acceptable election results. Diversity by itself is no problem. God is God of diversity and variety. Diversity is natural. It should be respected. It should be extolled. It should be celebrated. And it should be well managed. Diversity is beauty, and it should be cherished. It must not be destroyed by acts of omission or commission. Sameness is unnatural. It is man-made. It is monotonous, unbeautiful, boring, and not what the world or community should be. The nearest sameness created by God, as far as human beings are concerned, is identical twins. They have different fingerprints to prove and establish their differences and diversity. The problem is poor management or mismanagement of diversity due to ignorance, lack of knowledge and understanding, incompetence, bad governance, and very poor leadership. Let me expatiate on this. Some people are ignorant about the components or constituents of their nation. What we are ignorant of, you can neither appreciate nor handle well. Knowledge and understanding of diversity within a nation is of utmost importance. Incompetence, bad governance, and poor leadership lead to poor appreciation or non-appreciation at all of the importance of diversity. The breeding and upbringing of a leader also affect his attitude to diversity, his management and protection and sustenance of diversity. The problem, therefore, is not diversity per se. The problem is with those who have to manage diversity. And in managing it badly, dispute, agitation, disunity, division, conflict, violence, segregation, separation, and even secession rear their ugly heads. We have seen it in Ethiopia and Eritrea. We have seen it in Sudan and South Sudan. And no country in Africa is immune from it. Not even Somalia, that is homogeneously, ethnically, and religiously, but divided into clans. We must remind ourselves that all the three regions of Nigeria at independence, North, East, and West, have either planned or attempted secession without success so far. The attitude of leaders is most determinant. Some leaders show hatred, bigotry, phobia, favoritism, nepotism, intolerance, lack of democracy, lack of accommodation, no room for genuine dialogue, and they show personal insecurity. With all of these, or any of them, a leader cannot manage diversity successfully. And without successful management of diversity, we are doomed. What is the way forward? Leadership must be educated, knowledgeable, understanding, competent, and nationalistic. Governance must be democratic, making strenuous effort in nation building, particularly democracy, politically, economically, and socially. Participatory democracy, politically, economically, and socially. Society must be made inclusive. Justice, fairness, equity, and equality of opportunity must be the order of the day. Leaders must be receptive and they must shun impunity. People must be made to feel belonging and having a stake in the nation. It must be a country for all and my country for every individual. Nobody should have a feeling or sense of exclusion or marginalization. If such a feeling exists, it must be addressed. The attention must be paid to the whole and not to a part or the sum of parts. There must be a common vision to complement legal or constitutional institution. It must include common dream, common stake, common national purpose, and common motivation. The nation must be able to offer security within and without to all its citizens. Where leadership and governance fail to ensure provision of education, security, employment, reasonable and satisfactory living conditions for all its citizens, management of diversity is impaired. There should be no polarizing and destructive identity narratives. What is the Nigerian situation? If any country is diverse, Nigeria is one of such countries. It is the diversity that makes us what we are. With a population of some 210 million people, according to the UN, we are the largest country in Africa and the largest population of black people in the world. But population without all that should go with it in terms of development, unity, cooperation, security, enhanced living standard in just, fair, and equitable, and shared and inclusive society with all the democratic and human rights and choice will amount to nothing. We must not forget our past and our history to continually put us side by side of our contemporary nations at independence, to learn the right lessons of how and why we have slid back. So, when we put Nigeria on the scale of diversity management, leading to wholesome society that every Nigeria envisages, how does it weigh? How do we stand? Most of you here know as much as I do that the answer is not much. Here we do not have to go over the history of Nigeria, except to say, like most other countries, we are an artificial creation. We must admit that not making Nigeria a great nation after independence must be our responsibility and nobody else's. Since independence, Nigeria has not been as divided as it is today, not even during the Civil War. And what is wrong? It can be put in one sentence. It is essentially the mismanagement of diversity, springing from bad governance. All the points made earlier as to the problem of management of diversity generally are all present in Nigeria today. The other two issues of worst fears that I mentioned, youth bulge and free, fair, and credible elections, are all there. To all these must also be added the new reign of fear and intimidation leading to cooptation of all institutions and their inability to function freely and unfettered, compounding the situation. And where do we go from here? All the prescriptions made earlier in the way forward must apply to Nigeria, failing which our ship is heading to a wreck. Let me emphasize dialogue and taking with ourselves seriously and talking with ourselves seriously, dignifyingly, and as equals, and not as master slaves, but as citizens of the same country on equal and mutually beneficial basis. There's no group, tribe, section, or region in Nigeria that is innocent. It should not be blame game, but accommodating and understanding game of brotherhood, friendship, cooperation, sharing and caring, and good neighborliness. Let me reiterate here. I am an incurable optimist, and I believe that at all cost, Nigeria is worth saving. It is worth being held together in unity, solidarity, common security, shared prosperity, and inclusive, democratic, and progressive society. Then the question now is, who will save Nigeria? Make it secure with well-managed diversity, fast-growing economy, wholesome social order, satisfactory development, and improved living standard for all citizens. The answer to me is simple and straightforward. It's the Nigerians. And here, I want to commend the Nigerians at home and in diaspora who have stoutly and courageously stood out to be counted to propagate change of our depressing situation. If you fold your hands, standing aloof and wringing your hands when oppression and evil are being perpetrated, you are an accomplice to the evil. If Nigerians don't take responsibility for their own future and their own fortune at whatever cost, then little should we ask our friends to carry the burden of our togetherness and progress on our behalf. What you are doing here today, in part of making contribution, is part of making contribution for the desirable change. Again, I ask, who will save Nigeria? Already, some Nigerians are at work, but we need to work more, work together, and pray harder. Prayer alone is not enough. Let us work as if it depends on us and top up with prayer for God's blessing. We should then appeal to friends of Nigeria and our development partners, and of course here and in other parts of the world, There are many of them. Again, I want to thank the like of Congressman Wolf and others who have always stood with Nigeria and who continue to stand with Nigeria, and who wish Nigeria well. And we ask them to continue to supplement and complement the efforts of Nigerians at home and in diaspora with diplomatic and economic sanctions against Nigerian individuals and corporate bodies, institutions, and families who are participants, perpetrators, and active contributors to the mismanagement of our diversity, bad management of demography, and mismanagement of electoral process in Nigeria, all of which are slowly but surely destroying our democracy and our nation. If we Nigerians lead in making good use of our diversity by managing it well, our friends and partners will give appropriate helping hand. It will augur well for Nigeria, for Africa, and indeed for the world. As we have heard, the world needs Nigeria just as much as Nigeria needs the world. We covet the support of friends and well-wishers. A Nigeria with well-managed diversity, robust security, conducive environment and conditions for investment, good leadership and good governance, playing its rightful role in Africa and the world, will need heavy investment which can be generated from within and from outside Nigeria. And it can be done. I always say the money is there, out there, but it's also cowardly because once anything happens, that money goes out faster than it comes in. Let me end on the note of restructuring, which has become a buzzword in Nigeria today. Anything that will strengthen our unity, hasten our development, and ensure our security and progress must be sought, discussed, and embraced. And if restructuring will ensure these objectives, I am all for it. But we need to know in detail what restructuring means, what it entails, what it will accommodate, and where it will reasonably lead us as a country eager to be among the leading nations of the world. That is, I believe, what we need to do in management of our diversity and in making sure we have good governance. Thank you, brothers and sisters and friends, for listening.
President Obasanjo, thank you so much for those remarks. Now, you have known me long enough, I think about 7 years now, to where I'm going to be direct. I really appreciate your remarks. I think 3 immediate thoughts come to my mind, and I don't want to get in the way of my Nigerian brothers and sisters who are waiting to engage with the president. The first thought for me is, as I was listening to you, was you need to be giving this presentation at the African Union. The people who need to hear those words, your words, are not sitting in this room. Some of them are, but the people who are responsible for the issues that you're talking about is really a discussion that needs to be grappled with head on with the key people who actually make the policy recommendations and lead their countries to take this issue on directly. So I think that was point number 1. I really appreciate your sharing as you did, because you were actually spot on in terms of the management of diversity. the second issue that came to mind, you were talking about what causes the mismanagement. I agree with you, but I was also thinking that one of the issues we have on the continent, not just in Nigeria, in some countries I might add, I think some countries are doing better than others, is that the short-term political gain derived from mismanaging diversity has to be grappled with long as well. Because I think that short-term political gain overshadows the long-term implications and consequences, especially when you tie it into the fact that in some countries you're not able to hold those leaders accountable through the ballot box. So I think that would be a second part of it for me, that we need to figure out how we tie in the issues that you're talking about holding people accountable, because we cannot continue on this path. So those were just my initial thoughts. I have many more, but I recognize that there are many people in the audience who would like to engage with you and Congressman Wolf on the remarks that you have just given. So what I'm going to do now is I will open up the floor for question and answer and comment. So if you'd like to pose a question or make a comment, please raise your hand. I will acknowledge you. We will take 3 questions at a time. When you get the mic, please identify yourself and the your institutional affiliation, if any, and let us know if you're directing the question to Congressman Wolf or to President Obasanjo. I see a lot of hands already.
Monday,
so what I'm going to do...
If you do not, if I may ask you for crave your indulgence, let me make remark a little bit on the 2 points you have raised.
All right.
So that we do not cover that with
in the
other questions.
All right, sir. Please.
Those who need to hear my remark and in the AU, they probably have heard me over and over and over again. As you said in your introductory remark, I was one of those who brought about the new organization AU, which was the transformation of OAU, and then NEPAD and APR. And all these were embedded in NEPAD and APRM. NEPAD was it's a program of AU, and I ran that for almost 7 years. So in terms of what I've, in fact, you could say that I'm talking like a broken record. What I've been saying since the beginning of AU to those who are my colleagues, those who have left before I left, and those who are there when I left. So that issue, but the point is that I think all Africans need to know this, because they too can, in their own different ways, put pressure to bear on their leaders to do what is right. The second point you have made is short-term political gain. Well, I think that is a problem that is there for all political leaders. All political leaders, not one. But that is what makes the difference between good leadership and bad leadership. Good governance and poor governance. Now, how far forward can you look? Now, are you only looking at the next election and no longer looking at even the current generation, not to talk of the next generation? And the problem, and that is the point that I have been trying to make, is that we must be looking beyond the next election. If all that we are looking at is the next election, then we will be failed leaders. That's the point I'm not. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate your taking the time to answer those 2 questions. So let me open it up again. Again, I'll take 3 questions at a time. Identify yourself, your institutional affiliation, if any. And what I'm going to do, because there's so many hands, is 1 minute. We don't want to hear the history of Nigeria. Most of us are here because we understand it. But please get to your point. Ask your question so we can get as many people in as possible. So let me start right here, and I'll work my way there. Right here, right there, and then right over here with the lady, and then I'll take the next round after that.
Your Excellency, my name is Emmanuel Ogebe with the U.S. Nigeria Law Group. And as ADF country representative, you welcomed me to Abuja, and I'm now welcoming you to Washington. Now, when you were president, the Sharia crisis broke out, and Boko Haram also broke out. Our research indicates that the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan pushed foreign fighters from Afghanistan into Nigeria, and that intelligence was shared with your government. Can you inform us on...
Now, say that again.
When the U.S. invaded Afghanistan, they found Nigerian foreign fighters alongside bin Laden. And U.S. sources claim that the Nigerian government was informed that Nigerians were fighting with the Taliban. I want to know if you were aware of this intelligence at the time. Secondly, I want to commend you for going to negotiate with Boko Haram, even as a retired general. That shows your respect for diversity. Can you let us know why those negotiations failed? And finally, I thank you for putting
Hey, my brother.
a church in the presidential villa. That was very good of you.
No,
Thank
seriously, please limit yourself to 1 question. Maybe I should have been clear so we can get in as many people as possible. Let me get the gentleman that was next. I think it's a gentleman back there. Sorry.
Hi everyone, my name is H E Olusegun Obasanjo. My question is basically about, in general, Nigeria's population, like you said, an artificial creation of European colonialism, which of 200 million. I won't go into the issue like you mentioned. However, my question is, in general, should Nigeria exist as one entity? Because if you look at the last election, there's a clear divide between the north and the south. There's a clear divide between ethnicity and religious principle and different cultural ethnicities. Not that division will solve the problem, however, Nigeria is, like you talk about responsibility, or Nigerians taking responsibility in the future and moving ahead. Shouldn't leaders consider Nigeria as one entity, in the sense that should we really exist as one country, or should we possibly divide it up to ensure that mismanagement is less likely to happen? Thank you.
Okay, and then there was a lady right here. I think the mic is coming from the other way. Mm-hmm.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Amaka Anku. I run the Africa practice at Eurasia Group, which is a global political risk consultancy. My question is, you spoke in pretty broad terms about what you perceive as current mismanagement of diversity in Nigeria. I'd like to hear specifically exactly what you feel is being done that you would have done differently. How exactly is diversity being mismanaged currently? And how would you address the criticisms out there that in fact your opposition is due to the fact that a lot of elites have now been locked out of patronage systems under the present government? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I think the first question, whether the American government sent Nigerian or report about Nigerian found fighting in Afghanistan, that never came to me. But I do not say that Nigerians are not found fighting in Afghanistan or anywhere. In fact, we know that Nigerians were Gaddafi recruited many Nigerians, not only Nigerians, Kenyans, Nigerians, Burkina Faso people. But that was not sent to me. Then you ask about how did I manage, what is the second point you asked? How did I manage?
Your dialogue with Boko Haram.
Okay, in my dialogue with Boko Haram. Let me take a little bit of time to explain that. I think Boko Haram, Sharia was there when I was there. It was started by Yerima in Zamfara. And anybody who is sensible and sensitive about Nigerian situation will know that one thing that can be irrationally difficult to handle is religion in Nigeria. And I know the reason why Yerima went the way he went. And he went to Sharia to save his neck and to protect himself. And it is in this country, when I was asked, I said, look, I understand Sharia. If it's a religious Sharia, it will survive. If it is not, it will fizzle out. And it did fizzle out. And later on, I saw Yerima. And I said, Yerima, he caught one hand, and he never caught the second hand. And I said, Yerima, are there no thieves in your state anymore? You have caught only one hand, you didn't cut. He said, sir, that one hand was a mistake. I won't cut another one. He didn't cut another one. He made, I think it's only in Katsina, they had somebody who was a lady who was supposed to have been caught in adultery, and it was supposed to be stoned to death. Then I called the governor. I said, how are you going to handle this? Say, leave it to me. I left it to him. And then, of course, the Sharia court gave judgment that the lady should be sentenced to death by stoning. And then I was furious. I called the governor. I said, look, you asked me to leave it to you. I have left it to you. This is not acceptable. He said, okay, leave it to me. And I said, this time I will leave it to you, but I will be following you as you are handling it. And then, of course, he asked his Attorney General to appeal, and they appealed, and then, of course, nobody was stoned to death. Now, the point is this. How do I handle this? The point is that in a country like Nigeria, what Yerima wanted me to do is to roll out the tank and say, Sharia, no. And of course, if I got a petition on anything for my 8 years as a democratically elected president, on any subject, it is on Sharia. And if I had done what people wanted me to do, maybe Nigeria would not be what it is today. But it's just a question of, again, knowing what you need to know and doing what you need to do. What matters is that we survive. And Sharia, I think 12 states in Nigeria made Sharia law. The Sharia laws are there, but nobody hears about any Sharia today. If I have rolled out the tank, it will have been a different story. North-South, I think North-South is question of management. And there's no homogeneous North or homogeneous South that we talk about. Now, if you talk about North today, where do you put Plateau? Where do you put Benue? Even when you take states like Adamawa, they are divided. Even Borno, that's where you get Chibok girls, 276 of them. They were almost all Christians. So I don't, and when you look at the profile of our census, it does not really match what some people are preaching. The 2006 census, which is not being used, figure, shows that the North, as you have it today, 19 states, is about 52.7, close to 53% of the population, and the South, with 17 states, is about 47% of the population. So even the South is not homogeneous. There are substantial Muslim population and animists, just as you have in some parts of the North. Now, So that is not an issue. The election, if you put election on basis of North-South, I think apart from manipulating the election result, I don't think you will get the result that you want. In 1999, the Yorubas didn't vote for me. They are from the South. I'm a Yoruba man, and they didn't vote for me. But the rest of the country voted for me, and I got almost two-thirds of the votes cast. The third question, I was trying to write it, but I didn't.
It was about managing diversity, that you talked in very general terms.
Okay, yeah, I talk in very general terms. Now, and what should I have done? That let me give you 2 or 3 examples. I just mentioned now, in 1999, the election, the Yorubas, who will probably, it depends on how you look at it, they will be either the second largest tribe in Nigeria, or depending how, if you take Hausa, Fulani, you separate them, Hausa separate and Fulani separate, the Yorubas might even be the largest tribe in Nigeria. They didn't vote for me. And immediately after I took over government, I called some members of my government. I said, look, the Yorubas didn't vote for us. Let us see what we can do. I didn't say that because they didn't vote for me, the type of statement that President Buhari made when after the 2015 election, and he said only those who voted for him will enjoy patronage. Now that immediately put the back of some people up. Now, and then there are at least 2 zones who did not vote for him. South did not vote for him. Southeast did not vote for him. And anything he does, they see it, oh, he has said those who did not vote for him will not enjoy patronage. So you divide them. You made it they and we straight away. I wouldn't do that. That is specific. Then when you have a situation where your own tribe is being accused of something, now you must be able to look into it and make it transparently clear that that accusation is unfounded, or if it's founded, you deal with it. There had been, well, herdsmen, farmers. Now, herdsmen are mainly Fulanis. Nothing has been done. Rather than doing something about it, what we are having is, okay, we will create colonies, cattle colony. Where will you create colony in Nigeria? Is it in my own part of the country that you will now make a colony? Who will give you land to create colony within its own state? So these are specific. You are asking for specific. I can go on and on. But there are many things that should not have been done that are being done, and many things that should have been done that are not being done, that will have helped in the area of management of diversity.
Thank you, President Obasanjo. Now, we have Congressman Wolf here. So what I want to do is, because this is also it's a global issue, as we talked about early on. So I want to internationalize 2 of the comments that were made. One is, there was a question here about intelligence sharing. After all, terrorism is a global problem. We see these people going back and forth with no respect to international borders or regions. And so the question was, what did the Nigerian leadership know after the Afghanistan and the Taliban? And so my question to you would be, would you care to comment, if this is something that's up your alley, in terms of how the international mechanism for sharing information, the US and other countries on this problem, has evolved since President Obasanjo was in office? Obviously, you can't deal with a problem unless you're getting the information that you need to deal with it. And then the second comment that was made was about negotiating with Boko Haram. Now, I know this is a lively debate about whether or not one should negotiate with terrorists. I mean, from a U.S. perspective, what is the viewpoint then? What is the rationale for it? And how would it feed into, say, African countries negotiating with some of their terrorist groups?
Well, one, I think all of the nations, the Western nations, have a vested interest in what's taking place. You now have in Italy, you have 15,000 Nigerian girls and women being sexually trafficked in southern Italy. You have, every time there's a boat sinking in the Mediterranean, 5 to 10 to 15% of the people are from Nigeria and the surrounding region. We have reports, if you look at the Jamestown Foundation, of people leaving the Middle East, coming into the region. You have the killing of 4 American soldiers. I think there has to be a greater involvement of the United States to coordinate, but also with the French. The French have a vested interest there. The English have a vested interest there, and many of the other countries do. I saw a statement by the Irish singer Bono about 2 years ago. He said, it is an existential threat to Europe if this area fragments. So I think there needs to be sharing. On the issue of negotiating with Boko Haram, I think that really should be left to the Nigerians. I don't think it's appropriate for me to make a comment whether they should be negotiating. I don't think the United States is coming in to run. I think what you had, if you recall, on Senator Danforth coordinated all of the aspects of our government and brought them in, working with both, if you recall, Salva Kiir at that time, and also with the North, to sort of bring the thing together. So I think whether you negotiate, that's up to them. But I think the Americans have an opportunity to come around and enable the Nigerian government to do things that it currently has a very difficult time doing now.
Thank you. Let me take another round of 3 questions. Priya, where are you? All right. Did you leave? All right. Let me go the back. I'll start with the gentleman over there, come to the lady over here, and then go right in the corner over there, and then I'll bring it up.
Hi, thank you, Mr. President. I'm Doug Burton. I'm a writer for Zenger News, as well as some local newspapers. I'd like to ask your response to the citizens' movements that have been arising in the last 4 years. You said that the problem is mismanagement of diversity. But what we've seen in the last 4 years with the Brexit effort, with the rise of parties in Europe such as AfD in Germany, the Sweden Democrats with the Lega North in Italy, are populist movements which assert citizens' rights and resist multinational organizations such as the EU or the United Nations. And in the United States, we witnessed the rise of a popular president who is said to be a nationalist. Do you see a parallel between what is happening in Nigeria in terms of nationalism, or should there be a parallel between what is happening in Nigeria and what's happening in Europe and the United States?
Okay, that's one question. The lady right there.
Good morning, sir. My name is Olusegun Obasanjo, and I'm representing 2 particular groups, I guess. My mother is the president of the Idonre Progressive Association, which is an organization that helps a subset of the Yoruba people, particularly from Ondo State. And myself, my name is, like I said, Olusegun Obasanjo, and I work at the Department of Energy with the Energy Information Association. So my question is kind of 2-pronged, and it's about diversity. My first question is, how can diasporans help effectively? As you mentioned, the solution to Nigeria is from Nigerians. I went to Penn State, studied energy engineering to help Nigeria with the energy sector. I have land there. I've tried as much as I can possibly to break into the Lagos public works sector, and I have not been able to get my hands on ground to help, even for free. No one is trying to, kind of work with me there. And the Idonre Progressive Association as well, I'm stuttering, has also tried to help Idonre as much as they can, but it's very hard working with the government on ground. And my second question is, do you feel it will be helpful if diasporans vote? Because like you said, we are not on ground and we are not, I guess, influenced by the politics that's happening there in the country. So if we're able to actually vote and help choose who our government leaders are, can we affect change? Thank you.
Thank you. And there was the gentleman at the back over there. Can somebody get him a mic, please? And then I'll work my way up. So I'm coming. I see you.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Obasanjo. All right, my name is Enoch Entry. I'm part of North Rock, and we're a tech company. So my question is regarding the regional integration. I remember you when you were in power, you were one of the few African presidents in the ECOWAS community that was trying to push for the regional integration of the ECO. And my question to you is, with the Continental Free Trade Agreement that's currently happening right now, along with the regional bias towards integration, however, it seems like there's also a divide in the ECOWAS community between the Francophone and the Anglophone communities. What are some steps that are being done now to really, really aggressively tackle this issue? Because I mean, there's no way we can sit up here and talk about African prosperity without really, really solving the root of this problem. And to you, Congressman, where does United States stand when it comes to the whole when it comes to France's position? I know that Italy's prime minister called France out and mentioned that, hey, we have a migration crisis happening, you know, all partially because of $500 billion being smuggled out by French companies every year. You know, if things were better on the ground, that would not be the way. Where does the United States stand, and what is the United States doing to help solve and facilitate this issue? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me take the first point about nationalism. I don't believe that Nigerians in or out, going out or coming in, are driven by nationalism in the sense that we see populism and what I will, with all due respect, call misdirected nationalism coming out in the West. One thing that has served the world very well is liberal democracy since the beginning of the last century, at least since the end of the First World War. And it has made and it has helped the development of the world. Then, much later, you have globalization. Now, for all that to be set aside and say now you are going to look inward, I believe is myopic. And we cannot even afford it. We are going the other way. We have just last year signed African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. And this year we launched it with 22 ratification out of 55. And as at last week, when I was in Kigali, we have got 28 ratifications. So we have already got more than 50% of the African countries ratifying, and it's only one country left to sign, and that is Eritrea. So I don't think we have to worry in our own part, because we have no substitute, really, no substitute for, and I will come to that, for working together, if not political integration, economic integration. We just have no alternative. And then that brings me to the point made about what can those in diaspora do. The point you have made, you get this discouragement, you get obstacle, you get hurdles. And what I always say, and we get it, even those of us there, not only those of you in diaspora, though even those of us there. And what I always say is that when you meet with resistance, you continue to persist until you succeed. And you will always meet with resistance. When you meet with resistance, you continue to persist and look for a way out, and you will make it. And if there's any area you think I can help, you come in. And even when it is government, I believe we can wait government out. And I have done that. You can say, okay, look, the life of a government is 4 years. Let's see what, if you can't, and then, of course, you also look for officials. The officials don't, some of them understand. And if those that are holding portfolio are not helpful, there may be officials who can help. But choose where you will work and look for those who can help you. Voting. I try to get this. And what they have always told me is that you need a constitutional amendment to allow Nigerians in diaspora to vote. But I don't know. They have always said this. But even if we need the constitutional amendment, let us have it. Let us have it. There's no reason why Nigerians, bona fide Nigerians, cannot vote in their own country at any time that there are elections. Now let me come to the last point, regional integration, particularly ECOWAS. We have tried this, and for the regional, what they call regional economic
communities.
Community, the Regional Economic Community, REC, ECOWAS is supposed to be the most advanced. But even that, to me, it has not advanced enough. But let me tell you, I will admit that we made a mistake even when I was in government, because we left it to the experts who came to us and said that we need to have 4 areas of convergence for all the 14 states, 14 countries. And anytime we met, Nigeria will meet 3 of the convergence items. Ghana will meet 2. Cote d'Ivoire will meet 2. And then we go away. Next year, Nigeria will meet not 3, now 2. Ghana will meet 3. And we were never able to move forward. I believe what we should have done would have been get what I tried to do later, and get zone of common prosperity, and then agree 3, 4, and move on. But I believe that we still need to, because even the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement still depends on using the REC, the Regional Economic Communities, as the building block for the continental integration. And we still have to do that. We don't have any alternative. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congressman Frank?
I don't think our government is doing very much at all. Yet we're giving $400 million of foreign aid, but I don't think we're doing very much at all. When I watched the Chibok girls situation, when all the world leaders from all over there, I mean, Cameron, hashtag bring back our girls, nothing is really being done. Thirdly, the media is not covering this. The media today, keep in mind, Boko Haram has killed more people than ISIS killed in Iraq and Syria. Front page of every news story, Syria, Iraq, etc., ISIS. There are no stories about Nigeria. Almost nothing in the Washington Post. Periodically, the New York Times will cover it, but the Western media really isn't really doing anything. You compare this with Sudan. I went to Sudan many times. Members of Congress would go. It was a constant I don't know the name of a congressman other than Congressman Chris Smith that's been to Nigeria. And when they fly into Nigeria, it's 3 hours in Abuja and get back on the plane and leave. And then they say they've been to Nigeria. You haven't been to America if you've just gone to New York City and stay there for 3 hours and leave, or come to Washington. In Sudan, if you can recall, back in the 90s, many of the religious leaders in the United States, Chuck Colson, there were church services. I used to go to National Presbyterian Church, and they would have Sudanese people to come in and talk about it. You remember the Lost Boys? You remember what was going on? The coverage, it's totally different. So I think our government, for a lot of reasons, one, government is inspired by what they read and who's contacting them. Is the diaspora calling? You have a large diaspora in Texas. Are they calling Senator Cruz's office every day? Are they going in to see Senator Cornyn, a great guy? Are they going in to see Ben Cardin, a good friend in Maryland? Are they going in to see Senator Perdue down in Georgia? And so if the media isn't covering, the Washington Post never covers the story, the New York Times barely covers it, the Wall Street Journal doesn't cover it, it just isn't really happening. And so therefore, no members of Congress go, very few press go. So how's our government doing? Not very, very well. The religious leaders for Sudan were always speaking out. Always. The religious leaders in America for Nigeria are quiet. And so I think that we are not doing, the American government is not doing a very good job, because the media and nobody covers it. Every time I go out and give a speech, when I say the one thing, more people were killed in Nigeria by Boko Haram than was killed by ISIS in Iraq and Syria. People almost can't believe it. If that being the case, so our government's failing.
Thank you. I really appreciate both of your responses. We do have to get to the bottom of the issue. So here's what I'm going to do. And I need everybody to work with me on this. So the president and Congressman Wolf have to leave at exactly 12 o'clock. So I see 6 hands up. I'm going to take those 6 hands, but you have exactly 30 seconds. And I do have a cutoff thingy down here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'll go Priya, the lady over here, the gentleman over here, and 2 people over here. Let's see how we do in this, and then I see both of you, but let me see how we do in those 6, and then I'll come around. So 30 seconds, please, and then I'll let both of our speakers answer the questions that they can, and then we'll bring this to a close. So let's go.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is
Can't hear you.
Akwibo. I am a technical product manager at a software development company here in DC.
Please speak up so that I can hear you. I'm getting old.
I said my name is Priya Akwibo. I'm a technical product manager at a software development company in DC. I have a question regarding you saying earlier about looking inward. Many younger Nigerians attribute previous generations of entrenching the corruption and lack of responsive or accountable government often seen as the norm today. How can Nigeria's leaders bridge the divide between youthful population to equip the younger generation to lead and improve the nation?
All right. So that's a question about the responsibility of previous administrations in terms of entrenching some of the bad governance, and how do you bridge the gap between the older generation and the youth, which speaks directly to your youth bulge question. Lady over here.
My name is Oluwatobi Oshobukola Abubu. I'm a PhD student at Howard University. The question I have for Mr. President is, for President Obasanjo, is what would it take for Nigeria to be more proactive.
To be?
To be more proactive in nipping the establishment or the formation and growth of terrorist groups in the bud. I'm talking, taking into example the case of Boko Haram, and also your comments on the establishment of groups like AA Confraternity in Italy that also are involved in trafficking of victims.
All right, can you pass it up to the lady just in front of you there?
Good afternoon, everybody. I would just crave the indulgence of my Nigerian brothers here. I'm actually from Cameroon, Anglophone Cameroon. So thank you so much. Quick question. What are you doing as an elder statesman for our continent? What are you doing about the Anglophone crisis in Cameroon? It is turning into another Rwanda, and please, I need your help.
What am I doing for Cameroon?
What are you doing for our brothers in southern Cameroon with their ongoing Anglophone crisis?
I will answer that.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take the gentleman up here, right in front here. Let's move it along. No, it's coming to you. There's one behind you, the gentleman behind you. That's okay, I'm coming to you. Let's keep it moving.
Thank you. I'm Leon Weintraub. I'm a retired member of the diplomatic service. I worked on Nigeria and Washington. I was at the American Embassy in Nigeria as well. Sir, if I may make a brief comparison between Nigeria and Brazil. The country of Brazil for many years was the butt of jokes, saying Brazil is the country of the future and it always will be. And I'm wondering if you feel that Nigeria, with its great resources, its great population, its great educational resources, will be able to reach its potential like Brazil has, which is now exporting airplanes to the world. What do you see as the future of Nigeria? Still to be confused with all the problems of diversity, or a unified country that lives up to its potential?
All right, so the comparison between Nigeria and Brazil, what are the potential lessons learned from that? There's a gentleman right here right there. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is David Kuiper. I'm a retired Foreign Service officer. I served in Nigeria for 3 years. And Boko Haram started out basically as a homegrown operation out of Maiduguri, out of Borno. And it didn't seem to pose much of a challenge to the country for some time. And now it's grown legs, it's being able to sustain itself. Can you give us your estimate of why this is the case, why they seem to be able to grow these legs and hold on? Thank you.
All right, why Boko Haram has grown in strength and not been diminished, even with its homegrown roots. I have two more 30-second slots, and then I'll turn it over to the president. I'll take the gentleman over here. Is Temi in here? All right, then I'll take Temi right there.
Thank you. Mr. President, Chief Onka Okwa. From the summary of what you've said, the problem is that of leadership. First of all, let me say this. I've practiced politics in Nigeria. I've been a party, I've formed a political party, was never in your own, but we all admit and agree that you were the most prepared president that ever emerged in that country. That is a fact, because you can discuss virtually every critical issue that involves governance. Now, what is your suggestion, or how do you think we can solve the problem of the emergence of leadership in Nigeria? Because the problem is the way the leadership is thrown up.
All right, so that's a question about the perceived leadership deficit in Nigeria. Let's take the lady over here.
I'm Temi Eberba with the Center for International Policy. Thank you for being here, Mr. President. My question pertains to the arrest of the founder of Sahara Reporters and a candidate in the 2019 presidential election, Omoyele Sowore. You're an influential voice in the African and international community, and you have spoken about democracy and democratic freedom, as well as good governance. So do you think it's important that you denounce the arrest of Shorore?
All right. Before you respond, Mr. President, let me just correct myself over here. I don't want to get anyone into trouble. The question was the deficit in the emerging leadership, not the current leadership. I think that's a totally different question. So I want to reframe the question correctly.
Well, look, I will try and touch as much of the questions that have been asked. Leadership, yes. I believe very strongly that the problem of most countries in Africa is problem of leadership. And where the leadership is by and large right, you can see the difference. And how do we come out? What do we do? I said this last night. You see, we haven't established, and I believe that that's part of what we will have to do, establish the process of leaders coming out. I said here, until probably 2 or 3 presidents back, all the presidents in this country since the end of the Second World War have had some form of military background. It's all part of making leaders. In Britain, they will tell you that their leaders emerge from public school, that is private schools. I believe in our own case, we haven't figured out what it will be. And the French, you have to go to the French administrative school. It's one of the things that you have to do to emerge as a leader. I believe we have to find a way out. We aren't there yet, but it's one of the things that we have to do. What should be our motivation? As I said, we have to have certain things that we agree on. What is our dream, national dream? What is our national objective? What is our national vision and mission? All that. But I think we will do that. Now,
Yeah, reminding
3 minutes.
you have to be out there at 12.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Brazil, I think this is the longest democratic dispensation we have had in Nigeria. 59 years. We had democracy from 1960 to 1966. Then it crashed. We had another one that lasted, I think, was it 4 years, 4 years, 3 months? It crashed. This has lasted 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I hope it will continue. Touch wood. So I think we are, to that extent, making progress. Now, whether we will put this thing behind us, the fact that we are talking about them, what is wrong and what we need to do, I think is good. We should continue to talk about them. And some of us must be ready to pay the price. I went to prison for almost 3.5 years because I told Abacha to stop being in government as a military man. If you want to be in government, put down your uniform and contest the election. Now, I opened my mouth too wide, and I was put in jail, but I was better for it, and I believe Nigeria was better for it. I think we will get there. And Cameroon, what did we do? The Archbishop of Canterbury and I, we were about the Secretary General of the UN, Antonio, has got a team of 18 of us. He calls us body of mediators. And I had wanted to see President Biya, and I sent a message to him. And when the message was delivered, he said, look, what did I want to come for? And he was told I wanted to come for intervening between. What worried me is not even what you are worried about, but children in Western Cameroon have not gone to school for 3 years. For 3 years. And that, I believe, something should be done. Then he asked us to come, the Archbishop of Canterbury and I. And the Archbishop of Canterbury has sent his advance party. I had moved to Abuja, and I was about to take off from Abuja and go to Cameroon. I got a message that it should be aborted because the president was ill. And they said it would be bad if we went and we couldn't see him. Well, since then, he seemed to have organized some form of conference. He hasn't called us back, but I hope one day he will call us back. So we are doing something about your country. Now, let me say this. The issue of Boko Haram, it is an internally generated issue. And when I went to Maiduguri in 2011, I asked, how much is Boko Haram externalized? And the man who was talking to me, who was the middleman between me and Boko Haram leadership, who are out of the country, said maybe 10, 15%. And I said, how do you know? He said, yes, he knew the leaders. They are not men of any means, but they are bringing in some new weapons. And so somebody must be paying for those weapons, either Nigerians who have resources or some external resources. Now, then, 3 years ago, I asked the same man, how much is Boko Haram externalized? He said, at least 50%. At least 50%. Okay. Now, if that is the case, we are in danger. With ISIS being driven from Syria and Iraq, they have nowhere to go but Africa, particularly North Africa. And one area, one country that they will want to go is Libya. Libya is almost a failed state, and Libya has resources. And if you have ISIS taking over Libya, we will all be in trouble. And not only us, a lot will happen in Europe and maybe here as well. So it is incumbent on all of us to make sure that that does not happen. And I believe it is the work, and that is why the work, people like Congressman Wolf, the work they are doing is very, very important. Important for our own country, but we have to find solution, because part of our problem is because of lack of education. 53% literacy in the Northeast, 94% in the South. Now, you can see that gap. That gap itself it speaks for itself, that, look, you cannot have unity without you closing the gap between the education of the people in the North and education of people in the South. You cannot, and education has implication for employability, for standard of living, for everything, and that we have to do. We have 14 million children that should be in school that are not in school. It doesn't matter what we do with Boko Haram today. Those 14 million are Boko Haram of 10, 15 years from now, unless we do something about it.
Thank you. Congressman Wolf, would you like to close us off in 1 minute? All right. Okay, so you can see that we can continue this discussion with the president. There are a lot of issues that have been raised here. So, Baba, this is an open invitation for you to come back and continue this discussion. We didn't even get the half of it.
Monday, I'll be more than ready.
All right. So we really appreciate
but you have to ask Congressman Wolf to be by my side.
We will. He is a fantastic support. We certainly will. So please join me in thanking Congressman Wolf and President Obasanjo for this wonderful discussion. And I also want to thank all of you for making it here. Nigeria is a really important country. The issues that impact Nigeria impact not just this country, but Nigerians themselves, but also the rest of the continent. So thank you so much for coming and for engaging in this discussion. I know there are a couple of questions that were not answered. I will work with Atom to see if we can get those responses to the respective people who asked those questions with the president. I know he's usually very forthcoming.
If you have a question that is really
pressing,
you want, put it in writing.
Yes.
And give it to my assistant or any member of International Committee on Nigeria, and I will answer and send to you.
Thank you so much for doing that. So as we conclude this event, what I'd like to do is just to invite the President and Congressman Move to join us here, and the leadership of ICANN and the rest of the delegation to just join us for a photo. For the rest of you, we hope to see you at the Wilson Center. We have 2 more events this week. One looking at China in Africa, relations at the non-state level, what the Chinese migration and how that's impact relations between citizen to citizen in Africa. We have another event on peace building in the Central African Republic, looking at the role of agriculture in building peace in that country. And then on November 6th, we have a huge event here that we hope you join us for, which is looking at U.S.-Africa economic engagement at the state level, and the role that the African diaspora is playing in that, and how state level and federal level mechanisms are articulating to enhance economic engagement between the United States and Africa. So we hope to see you at some of these events. Thank you again for coming. And for those of you joining us online, thank you. Yeah, no, let's go.